Alright. How's the audio working? How's the audio looking? Good enough. Okay. Yo, what's up, Smelly? How's it going, dog? Good morning. Good morning. We are back. We are so back. Thought I'd sneak in a quick stream before Nick goes live later tonight. Okay, alright. Okay, alright. It's 7:40 p.m. You spam my Twitch and peanut oh, thanks, George. True patriot. Great. Yeah, that's what I need, right? A bunch of bungulators. Yeah, thanks. Insta-band. That's awesome. Imagine. Total AI takeover is imminent. Mecha Hitler will not be stopped. 07. My heart goes out to our new AI overlords. Yeah. No, yeah. True. W. George. Getting me banned in Peanuts chat. That'd be awesome. Imagine. How many viewers does Peanut have right now? Alright, this isn't fresh, right? 51K on YouTube alone.
Those are mine. Those are mine.
He's only been live for 30 minutes. It's insane how many viewers Peanut gets. Like, collectively, he has like 160K live viewers across Twitch, YouTube, Kick, Twitter. 47 on Twitch. He's only been live for 30 minutes. It's disgusting. He's taking over. He's taking over live streaming, man. Oh, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely bananas. Like how I refresh Twitter and we're already A-logging Candace again. What's happening right now? Venezuela post-Maduro arrest, Trump wanting to send military into Mexico, riots in USA against ICE, Iranian societal collapse and potential war with Israel and USA, Trump wanting to annex Greenland, and here's Candace. What is she talking about today? Today on the show, shocking discovery over the weekend which directly ties the Moonies cult to TPUSA faith. Turns out the internet was right all this bitch is retarded. It's now time to tell you more about the dream I had about Charlie's betrayal and who I saw. Oh yeah, that sounds really fucking reputable. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since we hated on this dumb bitch. But she really is fucking retarded. Let's talk more about this. I'm just gonna make more shit up about this dream I had. Bruh. What's up, M-Goat? How's it going? Yeah, watching Candace, real, right? Yeah, we are back. We're back. We are so back. What a way to start off tonight's stream than just by shitting all over Candace again. She's better looking. Better looking than who? Than she was before? Not looking bad here, not looking bad. A little chocolate sin, a little sound the jungle drums. I'm diving in. Yeah, nobody said she was ugly, but she's just retarded. Anyway, I don't even want to engage. I don't even want to bother. Like, dude, the new Candace. Is she looks maxing? What's her protocol? What does Candace's looks maxing protocol look like? What's up, Hippo? How's it going, dog? You think she bone smashes? You think she's hopping on the peptides? I don't know. Think she's taking a little bit of meth for lean maxing? Oh, the one, oh, right. Right. This is our new Black Queen.
Renee Nicole Good died being a nigger lover. She died because she wanted to protect niggers who would not piss on her when she was on fire. Anybody saying now she didn't try to run them over, you're a nigger lover. Thank you.
That's
My
crazy.
message to white liberals is that these people want you dead regardless. It doesn't matter. Give them everything they want. Let them scam. They still hate you. They still hate white people. They hate you. You can't feel bad for these people. When you have that superiority complex, that you're a white woman saving the niggers. Oh, I have a mission. I have to save the niggers. And the funniest thing is, the very people that she was out there,
The SpaceX crew goes hard.
making fun of her death. They're not hailing her as a hero. Renee
True.
Nicole-
True. The based Black Queen speaks. The based Black Queen speaks. Hey, she's saying it, not me. She could, you know, I'll get banned if I say it. But where's the lie? Speak your truth, Queen. Speak your truth. Speak your truth. The crew neck goes kind of hard though, not gonna lie. Yeah, Lego Bat. Yeah, the Batman. Yeah, the Lego meme. The just perfect. That is kind of keck, right? No e-girls. Never forget. Even if they're Black Queens, you know, a lot of guys, they get lost in the sauce. No e-girls, huh? She drops an N-bomb. She's based. She's based. She's perfect. Stop it. Get a grip. Not on your dick. Get a grip on reality. Cut it out. But no, that is very based. That's very based. So true. The Candace we need, but not the one we deserve, huh? So based. W. Yeah, little chocolate sin. That's crazy. Literally the black SS Wojak. So true. She's got the flamethrower and everything. But what is this game?
The main insurgent.
Oh yeah, I was looking at this game that's coming out. Anyway. Move into our next segment. Time to shit on India more.
A thick layer of toxic froth resurfaced at the Yamuna Ghat in Kalindi Kunj. A thick layer of toxic froth resurfaced at the Yamuna Ghat in Kalindi Kunj, making large stretches of the river nearly
Like, bro.
invisible.
Dude, all these environmentalists that complain about fucking plastic straws yet turn a blind eye whenever it comes to India. India is a biohazard.
The froth accumulated heavily along the riverbank, clinging to their sides, and dust particles were also visibly embedded in the froth.
Absolutely fucking disgusting.
Environmentalists who carry out a cleanliness drive every Sunday at the Kalindi Kunj Ghat.
By the way, my right ear is really enjoying this presentation. I wish my left ear could get a little bit of what my right ear is getting right now.
Claim that the water in December and January has been a lot more polluted
Let's get
than
right
it
into the
was
news.
before the Chhath festival in October last year. They acknowledge that the measures taken by the Delhi government to clean the Yamuna during Chhath were effective and would have vastly improved the situation today had the government sustained that momentum.
जो काम छठ के समय में किए गए थे, चाहे वो सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट हो या फ्रेश वाटर फ्लो हो, जिस तरीके से जो है ऑफिशियल
I like how, dude, notice how he's not speaking in English except for like the words that are related to hygiene. Do they not have the equivalent of fresh water in their own language?
Momentum.
जो काम छठ के समय में किए गए थे, चाहे वो सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट हो या
Solid waste management. Oh, I recognize that one.
वाटर फ्लो हो, जिस तरीके से जो है ऑफिशियल एक्टिविटी, अगर वो काम कंटिन्यू
Official septic.
कंटिन्यू रहता तो यमुना पे बेहतर इम्पैक्ट पड़ता, पर आप देखेंगे कि अभी कुछ नहीं। इवन जो है घाट बोर्ड जो है घाट पे आप देखेंगे डस्टबिन भी नहीं लगे हैं, ना ही प्रॉपर जो है सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट के लिए
Crazy. Solid waste management. Like, bro. Okay, now we're just like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Are your comments disappearing? Too much news getting into. Big show. Big show. Lots to talk about, lots to get into. Where do you even begin? You just have your right ear button. Are your comments disappearing? Probably being censored. What are you saying? Yeah, they might be. Hey, before we get into it, don't forget to hit the like button right now. Hit the like button and leave a comment. Leave a comment right now. Right now. Pause what you're doing. Hit the like button and comment what you think. I don't know what you think is going on in the world. Whatever. Comment something.
हो रहा है। छठ के बाद सब कुछ बंद पड़ गया है। छठ तक ही जो था अभी ये स्थिति है यमुना जी।
Poorly produced. Okay, you don't have to comment. Okay, don't comment anything. Actually, I take it back.
The Earth Warriors groups also voiced concerns for the pollution at Yamuna Ghats posing serious health risks, with toxic froth along the river emitting a strong stench. They also highlighted how people continue to dump waste directly into the river despite authorities imposing a fine of 5,000
Release
rupees
Yamuna, it will
under the
clean
polluter
itself.
pays
What the fuck? Do these people think what?
principle.
जैसे एनजीटी की गाइडलाइंस है कि आप कुछ भी कोई भी गंदगी नहीं डालेंगे।
All right. Sephora from Stompin' World.
अगर डालते हैं तो आपके ऊपर जुर्माना होगा, लेकिन ये डॉक्यूमेंट्स पे है। पब्लिक सारी डॉक्यूमेंट्स नहीं पढ़ती।
What's Stompin'
ज्यादातर
World? I don't
पब्लिक
even
जो
know what
इंडिया
that is.
की है वो रिसर्च नहीं करती, वो नदी।
All right, I think that's enough of this. I think we get it. India's disgusting, and they have no real plan nor desire to clean up their own country. Gross. Anyway. Anyway, should we open up Telegram? Catch up with what's going on since yesterday. You like this? Not one lie told? What is this? What, Stompin' World? What is this? This? Is this who you're talking about? Is he an Aspen clipper now? Oh, looks like this guy was posting Rainbow Six Siege controller gameplay. Is this what you're talking about? But oh, so now it's a shorts channel. What a crazy development. What am I looking for? Not one lie, is that? One lie told. All right.
He's completely right. What's this?
When the did we have to bow down to certain communities? Look, I'm Asian. I'm Vietnamese, okay? When we have our own communities too, and our communities thrive.
Yeah.
You know, we have businesses. We've been here only, what, less than 50 years? After
The Vietnam.
1975.
Yeah.
Majority of us have businesses, scientists, engineers, doctors, bright minds, people that giving back to this country more than we taken.
Yeah.
And we have never asked anybody to bow down or speak our language.
True.
And when this stupid mayor in Minnesota have to speak their language and apologizing for those motherfucking pirates. He's a Jewish dude.
Who is this guy?
You know?
He's
True.
President Trump
Hey,
is
dude,
banning institutional.
Why is YouTube Shorts like this? Dude, it's true. Like, a lot of minorities are more base than these white liberals. That is true. That's like, because they don't have like the same pressure that white people are under to not express their opinions. Yeah, I mean, he's right. But also, like, the Vietnamese community, so to speak, there's a filter there. We didn't bring in like mass immigration from Vietnam. It was fairly selective. And so we're not seeing the average Vietnamese, we're seeing like the higher echelon of Vietnamese. Keep that in mind too. There is a difference between like something like Indian immigration or Somali immigration. These people tend to be a lot less trustworthy and have higher incidence of scamming, particularly like in India. So Indians love to talk about how they're so exceptional, but so many of those people that they claim are exceptional have fake degrees that they buy from these degree mills. So yeah, I mean, he's right. Hitting on a channel that has more emotion is insane. That's crazy. That's crazy, Smelly. Know what he said at the end? Yeah, about him being Jewish? Yeah. Yeah, I mean... That we acknowledge that.
He's a Jewish dude.
Who is this guy?
You know?
I mean, that's true. Everyone's noticing, man. Everyone's noticing this thing about the, you know, this Jew thing, right? This little thing. It's true. It's the Great Awakening. But yeah, it's really gonna take some wang halves to just say it how it is. But again, you know, we don't. Here's the thing, like, we also don't need, like, we can take our own side. We don't need like the permission of like the quote unquote like based non-white people or minorities to like give us permission to say whatever the fuck we want, you know? I think a lot of people are waiting for like for it to be like cool with like certain groups before they start talking about it. That's also cooked. So no, you don't need a Vietnamese guy to tell you, you know, like you can actually just have your own opinion. You know what I'm saying? But it is true. It is true. It is true. There's this coalition being built. You can see it happening. And I think in the very near future, well, already it's happening. Like, people are being forced to take sides. And so, like, in that sense, like, that based Vietnamese guy is probably more on our side than somebody like Matt Walsh, you know? And that people might not understand that because they think, well, Matt Walsh is just based on like 95% of things. It's like, well, here's the problem. Like, that last 5% is pretty important, you know? That last 5% is kind of the crux. Like, it doesn't really matter in that sense if like you're anti-trans, if you're still shilling for like a Jewish ethno-state and Jewish supremacy. That other stuff really doesn't matter because we are not a sovereign country. So it doesn't matter if you're against transgenderism because the crux of the problem is upstream of that. So, anyway. But I was watching a little bit of Asmongold today, and let me see if I can actually find a clip that sums up his opinion on Iran. I don't want to watch an hour long. Are there any shorts? Okay, no, that's not what I'm looking for.
Defense forces.
I mean, I would say it was successful too. I mean, it seems like they killed a bunch of their leadership. Seemed massively successful.
200 fighter jets striking more than 100 targets so far across
Holy
the country.
shit.
And we just got new reaction from President
What
Trump.
the
We'll
fuck?
have much more on that in just a moment. Video shows explosions at one of the sites in northwest Iran.
God damn.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the attack struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear program and they would last, quote, as many days as it takes. Black plumes of smoke rose over Natanz. That's the site of Iran's main nuclear enrichment facility. The country's atomic energy agency says the attack there caused, quote, superficial damage.
This is old.
If you throw a brick,
Is there something? I'm looking for a clip that succinctly sums up his opinion on all this, so I could react and so I don't have to describe it. I'd rather it be represented in his own words.
The trend among Iranian women is now unstoppable. Bro. They putting them on pack watch.
A whip bozo.
Oh my god. Yep, there you go. And so actually, like, yeah, rest in piss, bozo. They're tired of them. And the thing is, too, you have all these women over in Iran that you see they're not wearing anything over their fucking head. They're wearing whatever the hell they want.
It's funny. Of course, women are going to be like the most radical elements in this new rising ideology in Iran. This anti like oppression to women, like this like women oppression movement, this liberalization that is being fomented by like the CIA and Mossad.
So I'm glad to see this, absolutely. And so Iran banned Starlink, but Elon did beam Starlink over Iran. They need to smuggle the terminals in. Yeah. Would you support airstrikes on Iranian leadership? I would really think that's a bad idea. I would use that as like a last resort, because I worry that if America, like, if they do it, I'm going to think that it basically, I think it will turn out badly, but I would be like, you know, let's see what happens. I don't want them to do that. I think they should only do that if they're certain that the people will either get massacred by the military, or they won't be able to overrun the military, right? Because the military is just like free firing on its people. Like, if that happened, I would say, okay, yeah, maybe we could help them out, right? I think that's fair. But in general, no, I don't want to see that happen. And the reason why isn't because I disagree with, you know, the protesters. It's because I want Iranians to have ownership of this regime change. I want them to have ownership of this revolution.
And here's, well, I'll just let him finish.
And I think that the moment that American bombs start dropping, the moment that American soldiers get involved, now it's no longer the Iranian revolution, it's the regime change that was basically facilitated by America. The Islamic regime has completely shut down the internet in Iran. So it is down to 0%. And so you have only a handful of people that are out there in Iran that are able to protest. The Iranian anti-regime protesters in Tehran have now arrived in a Missouri street and are a few hundred meters away from the Central Command Staff and the IRGC. So it's the IRGC's headquarters for the Iranian capital city. So they're basically about to get to the main, they're one of the main bases. This happens in what's this here? If this happens fast enough, we in Israel could open up disaster migration hospital as we sent to Japan and Nepal. Go Iranians. Yeah, I know there's a lot of Israelis that want to see this happen too. And there it is. Dutchmen demanding asylum centers must be in the country. Oh, this is another one too here.
It's like, okay, let's start here. Look at the way they're framing the issue. Like, this is an organic Iranian revolution that we're experiencing, and look no further. Like, look no further into the context of why this is happening. Just the fact that supposedly, because this is the narrative that's being pushed, and it's the one that it seems like Asmongold is supporting. They're painting it that such that the Iranian people are opposed to the this Muslim theocracy, the current Ayatollah, the whole regime that they're opposed to it, that this is like an organic grassroots movement. That's not really the case. This whole thing is 100% being astroturfed, and that makes it much more effective. It's much more effective optics if what people see here, if they truly believe that this is an organic development, that the Iranian people have just had enough of this oppressive theocratic regime, and this is power to the people, this is liberation. But what people fail to realize, not only that, but one of the impetuses behind that, the economic downturn, it's like, why is Iran suffering economically? Could it be due to the overwhelming sanctions and pressure put on Iran by like America and Israel and other allies of America? Could that have something to do with it? Yeah, so this whole thing is manufactured, and our State Department intelligently recognizes it's much more effective, not only in terms of like accomplishing the mission, but giving them plausible deniability and sort of removing America from the equation and accountability from America if people believe that this was an organic uprising by the Iranian people. But make no mistake, this is an operation by Israel, by the Mossad, and by America. Mossad brags about how they've infiltrated the Iranian government at like all levels. So look, like, and this is not me being pro-Iran. I'm not pro-Muslim, I'm pro-America. But obviously, like, of course Israel is going to be supportive of this, not because they are sympathetic with the Iranian people. They don't fucking care about the Iranian people. You think they care about? They're using the Iranian people as a vessel. They don't care about, and you know how you know they don't care about the Iranian people? Look at the way they talked about the Palestinian people. Simultaneously, they cried about Hamas. Look at what Hamas is responsible for as they're dropping bombs on hospitals and schools. They say they sympathize with the Palestinian people, but that when they tell them to evacuate, they bomb the refugee camps, like what happened in Rafah, using incendiary explosives to burn out refugee camps. So this like emotional manipulation, this propaganda, it's total bullshit. And so somebody like Asmongold, it seems like he's really buying into this narrative that the Ayatollah is this like evil, oppressive regime, and the people really are against that. Rit Bozo. Meanwhile, like, people like Asman are being played like a fiddle for the State Department. And look at how people are often equating what's happening in like Venezuela and their support for for like military intervention in Venezuela with this, when the two are not the same whatsoever. These two instances, they seem to like lay people to be like virtually identical. What like the Venezuelan Maduro regime and this Khamenei as the Ayatollah of Iran, his regime. But these are very different circumstances, and they like military intervention will serve different people's interests. Like, Israel is 100% the chief beneficiary of intervention in Iran. 100%. That's why they're pushing for it. And somebody like Asman, I don't think understands like what will happen if Iran falls and how Israel will benefit from that. And understand this, it's like, just from a first principles perspective, why would we want another country to become more powerful that we then have to compete with? Like, Israel wants to be they want to be the regional hegemon, but they have greater aspirations. They want to be a global superpower. They want to become as powerful as possible. Why would we help facilitate that? Why would we want to create a new competitor? Just from a first principle standpoint, Israel should be doing what we say. Why would this idea we're going to hand off the region to Israel we did all the hard work and they get to reap the benefits of being the hegemon over the region. How does that make any sense? Like, somebody, one of these, some of these people, please explain that to me, how that makes any sense whatsoever. So we're gonna like bomb the Middle East. We're gonna incur enormous debt, thousands of American lives, over 1 million civilian lives over the last 30 years. It's severely damaged our reputation and our diplomacy abroad, especially in the Middle East. And we're just gonna hand everything over to Israel now. Now that we incurred all of the cost, we're not going to even reap the benefits of controlling the region once we disengage to focus on the Pacific, to focus on China. How is that America first? And so it's like, I don't know. I don't think Aspen really understands who the driver of this policy, of our foreign policy in the Middle East really is, clearly. So this idea that like we're like, oh, the Iranians are going to topple this evil regime and, you know, maybe we should support that because, you know, the Ayatollah is like evil. It's like it completely ignores the reality, like this geostrategic reality that we're handing the keys to the kingdom to a hostile country, to Israel. So it's kind of embarrassing. Iran is bringing in Shia Muslims from Iraq to help the mullahs maintain control. Yeah, there's clashes going on apparently, and it's hard to tell exactly because of the media blackout, the internet blackout that's going on over there. But things are escalating. You know, there are protests, but you're not convinced. I think, frankly, it's I don't know. I think it's only a matter of time before the regime falls. Like, they're really going to have to crack down, and how long can they realistically hold out? Because as they crack down, the sanctions placed on them will only deepen. Because America will have the pretense that they're looking for. They're committing humanitarian. It's a humanitarian crisis. They're committing some kind of like genocide or mass murder of their people. They'll call upon the international community to deepen the sanctions against Iran. And maybe even to take direct military action. And I don't see how Iran can withstand that. I don't see how their economy can withstand that. And I think it'll be harder than Venezuela, 100%, because you do have the theocracy. There is a strong religious tie to the Ayatollah and all of that. So I think it won't be as cut and dry as taking out a crook like Maduro. But with that being said, I do not see how they withstand this. The incitement is just too much, I think, from the Mossad. So Mike Pompeo wished the Mossad in Iran a happy new year, so it is not entirely organic. Yeah, that was crazy. No, I don't think it's organic at all. Look, people being pissed off, like, yeah, there are economic issues, you know, that, you know, they're, I guess you could say, are organic, but like they're being fomented by Israel, by America. Like, we are creating the economic troubles in their country. And you have Mossad, you have provocateurs in the crowd that are riling people up. What they do. And so our government would much rather, and frankly Israel as well, would much rather this appears to people to be an organic event, an organic development, that the people are just pissed off, because any kind of kinetic strike is just too bad for optics. So, and so yeah, there are a lot of pissed off Iranians, that's true, but it's like they're just being instrumentalized. So
the battles continue. This is in
only China can save Iran. I don't think they want to be isolated with only Russia and North Korea as allies. Yeah, I think, and I said it would have to be Russia, but it could also be China. One of them, a stronger country has to go in and put boots on the ground, I think, in order to act as like a linchpin to prevent like actual kinetic action by like Israel or America. And you do have to like, I think it was a serious misstep, you know, a year ago when the Ayatollah refused further military, deeper military alliance with Russia because it was against their constitution, their beliefs. I think it was more so they didn't want to provoke America. And I think that was a very big mistake. I think they severely miscalculated the situation because as we knew at the time, Israel and frankly America were hell-bent on regime change in Iran. Nothing short of that was acceptable. All this talk of like a peace deal, denuclearization, all of that is a pretense for what they really, like that's a cover for what they really want. And they really want a regime change. They wanted to shatter the regime and install something far more pro-Western, far more liberal, far more pro-Israel, another puppet state, because they couldn't buy them out with foreign aid, and they couldn't fully intimidate them with military action. They're too entrenched in Iran, and look, a country like that is a theocracy, you know, Muslim, that is a lot harder to influence people than like a liberal democracy, something more secular. That's a lot easier to control, because like Muslim fundamentalism would be opposed to Jewish aggression and expansion in the region, just off principle. So people are secularized in Iran, that disarms them from Israeli expansion. And that makes them more amenable to the idea that Israel would be the hegemon of the region if they're not opposed to it for ideological reasons. Because then their life revolves around, you know, more tangibles like the economy. And so people become like indifferent to so look, it's disappointing how some people just still don't get it. Arab Spring was bigger than this, and look at Arab countries now. Well, look, the thing about Arab countries now, you know, many of them have been sanctioned or destroyed by America, or the West in general, or by Israel. So it's like there's action and reaction, and I think people are often like, they forget like what the inciting incident was, and like the cause and effect. So for example, like here, people think that like, you know, these protests and these riots are like just people being pissed off, but never mind the fact that the circumstances that pissed them off, as well as the incitement, was very much placed on them by hostile foreign actors, in this case, America and Israel. So you can't look at it in isolation. Like this isn't occurring in a vacuum. So, and you know, you look at all these Arab countries, it's like we're also looking 30 years you know, of military intervention and the GWAT that targeted all of these countries, and in one way either pacified them or destroyed them, split them into 1,000 pieces, pitted them against each other. Much of that was, you know, of course, you know, the clean break memo, neoconservatism, you know, Zionist expansion, but a lot of it is also just straight up Arab incompetence. Like they did allow this to happen. They still they seem to be incapable of recognizing the real threat and how they've all been instrumentalized against one another and their greater collective interests in the region. Like still, it seems like they don't understand what's really going on and how Israel is running the show in America as far as the foreign policy is concerned. They don't understand how like their inaction, especially after October 7th, really kind of sealed their fate, because all these different Arab groups simply allowed Israel to dictate when and where the fighting occurred. Israel would have had a much harder time if collectively, like Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, the Lebanese as well as Syria, if they all collectively took action against Israel at the same time, but that didn't happen. And I remember people were coping about that. The axis of resistance. Israel's on the verge of collapse. And like one by one, we watched Israel isolate and destroy all of their enemies. When anyone could have told you, even people that don't know much about military tactics, could say, why don't they just all bomb Israel at the same time? There's no way they could. And they didn't fucking do that. And so what happened was Israel would open up one front. They would call for a ceasefire in that front at some point. That would give them ample opportunity to rearm and refocus and to regain the initiative. And then they would take the initiative and they would open up another front. So they would bomb Hamas, right? You could say preemptively or as a response to October 7th. They would call for a ceasefire, make it look like they're trying. It's an optics war. Then they would bomb Hezbollah. They would take the initiative. They would start airstriking Hezbollah. That would go on. That would reopen. That conflict would reopen. That would go on for a while until, they start to lose the initiative. They call for a ceasefire. That front closes momentarily. What do they do again? They start bombing Hamas again with the initiative. And this went back and forth. And they stop bombing Hamas, and then they start bombing Iran. And so it's like, imagine like you're playing like a video game and like you're fighting 3 different enemies, and it's like you're allowed to death ball. You're allowed to put all of your troops into one target, and while you're focusing on one enemy, your other 2 enemies aren't fighting you, even though anyone with the brain could see that they have an opportunity to outflank you and overwhelm your resources and your defenses, but they didn't do that. And I think a lot of that had to do with they were, of course, afraid of American escalation, but a lot of these institutions, a lot of these fighting groups and militaries and governments were infiltrated by Mossad from like top to bottom. And so it's like, and they brag about the infiltration. Mossad brags about how much they've infiltrated Hamas and Hezbollah and the Syrian government and Iran, what they do. So this was it really, I think, helps you understand the situation. How could Israel be so bold unless they had assurances? They were very confident that they'd be able to do exactly what they did. Meaning they had the inside scoop. They had they had people in key positions of authority within those governments and militias, terrorist cells, that guaranteed them this kind of dysfunctional response to Israeli aggression. That's why they were able to do what they did. That's how they got away with it, because they had people on the inside. And the same thing is happening in Iran. Otherwise, like, anyone with a brain would have said, yeah, why don't they just all attack each other at the same time? Or attack Iran or Israel at the same time? So, crazy. Protests in the U.S. are funded by Blue Sky, which is George Soros, Lord Mark Malik Brown, which is the City of London / Davos boys. Yeah, people love calling out Soros, but like, who is Soros exactly? Who is Soros? It's like, go no further. It's just it's the billionaires. It's this like a rogue billionaire. Actually, I think he represents the interests of a larger collective. Look no further than this singular old billionaire boogeyman. So, yeah, but Soros, I mean, it's true. I mean, he funds a lot of, through his NGOs, and a lot of that was receiving government funding as well. That's one of the things that like Doge did actually accomplish, was exposed how much of your tax dollars went to funding some of these more radical, sort of militant, or we call them like woke groups that were inciting like the more radical woke ideology, and much of it did become violent. So, but I digress. No, like that is true. Like, the way that like Soros would fund like district attorneys, and so it's smart, it's intelligent. They established their like ground forces. They made it local, and it allowed them to steal the country right from under our noses. But Yeah, like under no circumstances should you cheer on, as an American, and looking out for your interests, should you cheer on the destruction of Iran, because as of right now, they're the only power in the region that's even remotely contesting Israel and constraining them. So I think if you cheer it on, you don't really understand what's going on. George Soros is expendable here for Malik Brown. Interesting. Look, it's sort of like, how would I describe this? They need like frontmen to some degree. It's sort of like Klaus Schwab, right? Of the World Economic Forum of sorts. Which is just a forum. It's just like not really, in and of itself as an organization, it doesn't really have any authority. It's just like a place for them to talk about their ideology and some of the new technology. But like, they would love it if people just focused on, I don't even necessarily want to call them a fall guy, because I do think that like Soros is largely insulated from consequences. But they need somebody to be the public face of this. So I think it's a very similar phenomenon. And so it's like, look at how they're getting like, look at how bullish these Iranian women are. It's like, bro, versus Western feminists. These women are feminists. Do you not understand? Like, that they see the inklings, they see the groundwork of feminism taking root in Iran, and these clowns are cheering it on. They don't see the parallels there. Meanwhile, Western feminists advocate for Islam. It's like, oh my gosh, you guys don't understand that like women are just like, they're just fools. They've been instrumentalized. There's a vector of attack. They will say or protest in favor of whatever the regime wants them to be in favor of. Okay? So like women, like what are like the women of Iran protesting against? Like they don't want to be slaves to the some Islamic caliphate. Okay, so they'll just be slaves to Israel. It's like people are cheering on being like goy cattle for like Israel. And under the guise of like freedom, of like liberty or sexual revolution or something. They like, people have no idea how they're being influenced, and it shows. People have no idea. They have no idea. So yeah, Aspen's pretty based on a number of things, but he's just not there yet. Heinz Kissinger was another one. He was the messenger boy. Yeah, Mr. Kissinger. Klaus Schwab is a villain out of central casting. He just needs a hairless cat. Yeah, it's... How do I describe this? It's like... I don't even want to say like they're messenger boys per se. It's like they're just willing to take on the public position. I almost like, I don't want to call them messenger boys because it almost sounds like they're not, I don't say like they're complicit, but they do have input. It's not like they're just taking marching orders. It's there's just more to it than like just addressing Kissinger or Klaus Schwab or Soros is like just scratching the surface, when, you know, there's a much deeper network backing them. And those people don't really want to be named.
In Iran? Holy shit. Look at that. But this time we definitely put in the right guy. I think that what they need to do is they need to have an actual election, or whatever they want to do. If they want to just bring in the king again, and
you know, it's just like,
and say we want a king again, then I think that's totally up to them. I don't.
How is that functionally different than having a supreme leader? Let them do whatever they want. It's like, that's just a false dichotomy. People are influenced. Like, in a certain sense, it's like, yeah, the masses are stupid. and they're clearly being influenced by foreign operators. And they're convinced that this is what you want. This is in your interests. When all they're really doing is handing the keys over to Israel. Worse than Epstein people? Which ones?
I don't have a problem with what Iran wants to do. I do have a problem with telling them what to do.
My guy. We are telling them what to do. We are telling them what to do. We're just doing it in a subversive way. Hello? You think that, like, the State Department, the CIA doesn't understand that? What Asman just said, I have a problem with us telling them what to do. Yeah, our government, the CIA said the same thing. Well, we can't tell them what to do because people have a problem with that. So we'll just convince them. We'll convince the Iranian people that this is what they want. In a much more subtle, indirect way. So that people like Asmongold don't have a problem with it. So we can convince people like Asmongold that this is actually an organic thing. Or any of the other like people that would be against US intervention. How can we get the people who would otherwise be against US intervention in Iran to be in favor of this or indifferent? We'll just convince them that this has nothing to do with us. When it does. Worse than Epstein, the elites? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Smelly. Like the people who blame the elites, or like... I don't know what you mean by that.
So yeah, and
so it's like, you know, I like Asmongold. I think he's leveled up a lot over the last few years. But he just doesn't... Like, I don't think he understands really what's going on here. I think he's... It's too, like... His approach is like, it's too surface level. You know, he's missing a lot of the key details. The cattle are stupid, that's why I'm buying a Kippa. It's time to switch sides, man. Time to switch sides. Shalom! Oy vey. Yeah, maybe the Ayatollah really is just a bad guy. So, but just look at how they've hijacked people's like moral complex, you know? A lot of false equivalencies. They're trying to convince people to be indifferent. It's just not how the world works, man. It's like people don't even realize they're swimming in water. And so when they're asked about it, hey, how's the water? They're like, what's water? They're just totally unaware of this like stream of information and influence. That's being beamed into their fucking brains. It's like the CIA might as well have like their van parked outside of everybody's apartment or house, just beaming like CIA, like MK Ultra beam straight into your fucking brain. They might as well, because people willingly do it with their phones and their computer screens. But because they think that they have because they have some degree of agency, it's disarming. They don't realize. They think, oh, I'm totally in control. I'm informed. I decide what news I interact with. And so the clear pill is to recognize you are constantly being bombarded with influence and propaganda that's trying to change how you think. That's hijacking your brain. That's hijacking your moral complex, and it's drawing false equivalencies to all these other situations to get you to support whatever the state, whatever the regime wants. Or in this case, Israel specifically. So, Shana Tova, Happy New Year! Yeah.
Talking to someone who's in Iran right now who's part of the protest, they're confirming a lot of the social media reports. Yeah, so Iran's need to handle their business with very minimum US aid as possible.
So I just find it so funny, okay? Somebody like Asman, I'm really ripping into Asman right now, but it's like, you gotta wake up, man. Somebody like Asman will correctly clock that like a lot of like these woke libtards are just like tools for certain interest groups, the regime, yet they totally fail to come to any kind of similar conclusion when it's a foreign country. And frankly, a country that's probably a lot, in many ways easier to manipulate. What's the moral of the story here? Here's the moral of the story. I feel like I just laid it out. I don't know. Like, I thought I described it. We can't afford to be naive anymore. Yeah, I like that actually. That's the moral of the story. Asmund knows but is scared to talk. I don't think so. I think he knows about like I think he knows about the Jews to some degree. How could he not at this point? But I do think maybe he wants to take a more sensible position. I do think he's a centrist, a sensible centrist of sorts. And he tends to focus on like maybe how do I describe this? Advertently avoiding like what he would describe as like scapegoating the Jews for everything or something along those lines. Maybe focusing more on the exceptions or something along those lines. An unwillingness to notice any kind of collective issue, because here's how they often argue against that or get people to oppose that. A lot of these people that are against the collective guilt placed on white people for like stuff like slavery or whatever, they'll apply that same logic to Jews, right? And they'll say, well, then you can't blame all Jews for whatever is going on. The key difference is, well, clearly there is a Jewish collective at work here that's pursuing their interests to the detriment of everybody else. Whereas it's not true for white people. White people get blamed for so much. All of the wrongdoing of white people is clearly blown out of proportion. Yet, so it's like this idea that we're going to hold nobody accountable for any kind of collectivism. And that's also not true. Like, clearly there is a Jewish collective that's nefarious. And the key difference is like, we are Gentiles, they're Jews, and there's a different community. There's a different collective action going on. So it's like, it's like almost like an overly ideological worldview. Like, we can't collectivize at all. No collective punishment or no collective observations can be made, because that's wrong. We're all individuals, and that's not 100% true, though. And they think that they have to take that position to be intellectually consistent. You understand what I'm saying? In order to defend white people and say, well, you can't, this anti-white stuff needs to stop. We need to stop holding white people collectively accountable for whatever. They think they need to hold that same position against Jews. But the difference is that Jews are acting as a collective, largely. Not all of them, but nobody's saying it's all of them. And so you see the thought process, and it's not, and that's the angle a lot of people are taking. Like that would be like an angle that like Tucker Carlson supports. Like, he's against any kind of identitarianism. And that's not true either. Because it's like identitarianism, it is not like some kind of commodity. It is not like the same across the board. Like, for example, like third world identitarianism, or like, I don't know, North African identitarianism in Western Europe is detrimental. Whereas, European identitarianism in Europe is beneficial. It's certainly beneficial to the European people. So like this, it's like this disarming effect. Do not look at any kind of collective. In other words, don't collectivize, because they're trying to convince you it's like immoral, but it's in your interests. And that's the key problem. Collectivizing is in your interests. At this point, it's a necessity, because everyone else is collectivizing. So this kind of worldview that they're supporting, nobody else is playing by those rules. all like so many of these third worlders, they're all against ICE. Like so many of these people, these immigrants, not all of them, so many of these immigrants are outright against ICE. They want more immigration, and they're doing so at the behest of their collective interests. They oppose what they believe to be like white collectivism or white supremacy. So it's like you as like a white person or really just like somebody that like, you don't even have to be white to support this, but recognize that supporting like a white country, a white majority is in your interests as a minority, believe it or not. Like that's like somehow wrong if you do that. That's what they're convincing people to do. And that's where Asmongold is right now, I believe. He's in this area where, you know, he believes in like maybe like a pure meritocracy or like, you know, he refuses to engage on these ideological grounds. And it's just like you're not fully upstream yet. It's like you only have like dare I say the privilege to make that kind of argument or to hold that kind of belief because for so long we've lived in like a white supermajority country. And that's rapidly changing, and you're seeing the grim reality of what happens as more diversity is introduced. And it's like, you're going to get shit like this. And what are you going to say? Well, hey guys, I'm in favor of a colorblind meritocracy. Meanwhile, your country looks like this. So it's like, to what end? To what end would you support that line of thinking? If this is a logical conclusion, when maybe somebody like Asmon could be somebody that would be, a strong defender of Western civilization. Instead, he's being redirected to be a red herring that aids in the destruction of Western civilization because he's not taking a strong enough stance. It's not enough to simply like not be in favor of like white replacement. You need to be very much against it. It's the same thing. Like, it's not enough to be indifferent to transgenderism and say, hey, we just shouldn't promote it. You need to be against it. It's not enough to just say like, hey, you shouldn't transition kids, but when you're an adult, I don't give a shit. Do whatever you want. Like, that's not good enough, man. It's not like that. That is not a strong enough position. That's not how it works. It's almost like it refuses to acknowledge how influence works. It's like, you know, children don't exist in a vacuum. They live in a society. And if everyone around them is trans, but even if it's not being taught in schools or on television, well, you're still being influenced in some way, shape, or form just by osmosis, just because these people are, you know, and their existence is being validated by a lack of opposition to it in the first place. So, anyway. Asmongold's mom was based and watched Nick. Asmon wants to stay on Twitch. Yeah, I just think I don't think it's that, like, I don't even know if he's like, I think it's more based on some things. But I don't think he's like, I don't think he's like being duplicitous here when he like supports the overthrow of Iran. Because opposing it would not get you banned on Twitch. There's a way to ride the line. I don't think that's what Asmon's doing here, you know? I think he probably has more of like a penchant for like, you know, certain slurs and whatnot than he lets on. Maybe he's more based on like the, you know, like race and IQ and stuff, but I don't think he's like fully red pilled on this stuff. Because look at what like the subversive right wing is doing by like trying to like, you know, painting all of this like the Ayatollah, the Iranian regime as like third world is backwards. Look at how like people like JD Vance and like the BAP sphere have pushed that kind of thinking. Oh, you oppose the overthrow of Iran. What are you, a third worldist? Very subversive, but who wins in the end? You know, the Jewish ethno-state wins. And how is that good for America exactly to have a nuclear power, an ascendant nuclear superpower in the region that will be uncontested? Like, how is that good for America exactly? A country for this country that has been so hostile to us to now run the Middle East and have some of the most valuable, you know, trade routes in the world. Uncontested. How is that good for America exactly? They won't need America once Iran is gone. How is that good for us? Oh, but who gives a shit about what happens in the Middle East? I do. Because we have a new competitor that's ascendant in the region that we facilitated all of this, and that they're going to be a big problem for. They have been a big problem for us, and they will continue to be so. So, like, just imagine, like, who's going to constrain Israel once they're not dependent on America anymore? Like, once they are totally self-sufficient, which they are trying to accomplish, who could realistically oppose them? So, that's just a nightmare situation, man. Me mom died in the Hyundai, mate. True. me dad was turned into an automobile tire. A lot of vehicular events going on this year. What's going on? The 1940s, America First had broad popular support, but FDR, as Secretary of the Interior, Harold Ikes labeled it anti-Semitic and pro-Nazi. Only Pearl Harbor was able to end America first. Yeah, I do think that is very much on the table. Another false flag, because that'll accomplish like two things. One, it'll give them like the pretense they're looking for to crack down on whatever they deem, like anti-establishment or anti-Israel. They're looking for that. They're looking for greater censorship. And two, it will galvanize people and into supporting the state in some kind of way. It makes the problem real for them. If there is such a horrific false flag like that will get people emotional. It'll get people scared. And that puts them in a vulnerable state where they can be manipulated. Look at what happened after 9/11. Everyone was in favor of the war on terror. Look at how they blew up 2 American skyscrapers, right? They bought into the narrative. And for most people, it wasn't until years later did they realize there was something funny going on. So it's almost like they need a false flag to scare people and get them back on the plantation. To censor the dissident voices under the guise of like national security or national unity, something along those lines. And that will only signal boost their own sources, the opinions that they want to be boosted. What's up, Hawker? How's it going, Doug? The biggest victims get to be the biggest bullies. Oh, with the victim complex? Yeah. We are one false flag away from getting wiped out. That's why I think, and this is why it's really scary. Here's the thing. People have gotten so red-pilled. People have seen the playbook. A lot of people are expecting a false flag. And so I think the only response to that is it has to be something like unprecedented in like destruction or deliver it, like, the means of delivering this false flag, like a massive drone attack, chemical attack, nuclear attack. What better way? And I've made this argument before. I don't even want to call it a prediction. I don't want to speak this into existence, but like, what better way to get America on board than if like they detonated like a backpack nuke in America? What better way? The sum of all fears moment, a nuke on American soil. What have they been warning about in Iran for so long, that they're developing the nuclear program? What if they already have developed their nuclear program and they smuggled the nuke in under Biden's open border years ago? There's terrorists all over America. We got to crack down. We got to go door to door, knocking, like kicking down patriots' doors that are opposing the regime in any kind of way in the name of national security because they blew up a nuke in wherever in America, on American soil. That would be like such an unprecedented thing to happen that would totally like terrify the American people to like watch something like that happen. I think it like, and it would really have to be that terrifying, that unprecedented to necessitate an unprecedented response. And then that would of course necessitate like immediate action in Iran. We would immediately have to like go into Iran in some capacity. And that would give them everything they wanted. They could silence all the dissident voices overnight. They could literally kick down your fucking door and arrest you under the name of national security because they detonated a nuke in America. Can you imagine? That would give them everything they wanted. So I hope that that's not the case. It's all contingent. Maybe they could do that. Maybe it's too risky for them to do that. Every time they do a false flag, it is a big risk on their part. because if they get caught, think of the consequences for them. So they would much rather take the lower risk route, and I really believe they'll only do a false flag if they deem it necessary. So, and I think the same thing is true for this like overthrow in Iran. They would much rather if America did not have to take direct action in Iran, like direct kinetic action. If we didn't have to do any more airstrikes, if we didn't have to do it, it would be so much better for the optics war if they didn't have to take additional steps. So that's why this is like plan A. This is plan A. They want to convince people that this is an organic thing, grassroots, and they're hoping that the problem will quote unquote solve itself, and that the decapitation strike will happen within Iran before they come externally. And people like Asmongold, he literally just said that's what he would prefer. So that's why they're doing it this way. It's cheaper, it's less risky, and it's more optical, because then people like Asmon would are more likely to support it versus like we go in with airstrikes. So yeah, look at the Patagonia fires. The Argentinians are going off on the moves. I haven't even talked about that yet. That's like a shocking development. That is a shocking development. The Ardina plan. Been in the works, and you look into Malay, very suspect stuff. Just hypothetically speaking, if pro-Iranian actually launched a terrorist attack on America or the West, what would your response be? Well, I would have to be 100% certain that it's like a pro-Iranian group. But I think that let's just war game this out. What would like a pro-Iranian terrorist cell really hope to accomplish with a terrorist attack on American soil? Especially if it's like a state actor, one that supports, you know, the Iranian regime itself. That's like it's officially sponsored in some capacity. Do they not understand that the immediate consequence of that would be the destruction of their country? So right then and there, you have to really, it's to me very low probability that any kind of like major terrorist attack, would occur, like that Iran would carry out any kind of major terrorist attack in America themselves. They would not be the chief beneficiaries of it, but Israel would be. So I just think that's just so low probability because it's just not in their interests. And obviously, like, any kind of sympathy that they would have from the rest of the world would evaporate too. So like that would just absolutely cook Iran if they did something like that. They would lose all of their international support. They would lose any support from the American people if they actually did commit some kind of terrorist attack on American soil. They would not be the chief beneficiaries of that. It would be Israel. And Israel knows that. And so that's why they're trying to paint Iran as some kind of irrational, you know, Muslim radical state, when that's just not how they're operating. They're not irrational. So, but yeah, I mean, look, if Iran really did that, which I highly doubt they would do, but if they did, then obviously I would be opposed to it, and it'll be a different story, I guess. And that's like what they're hinging on. Like, yes, I would have to support the toppling of the Iranian regime if all of that is true. And they know that. That's why they would try to, like, Israel or some contingent, some ally of Israel would be willing to conduct a false flag, because logically I would have to be in favor of the toppling of the Iranian regime if that were all true. So yes, I would. If hypothetically it really was Iran, then I would support some kind of decapitation strike. That's why they would want to false flag, for that very reason. So let's get into the Asmon storing. Oh, we'll continue on this. Even the Jerusalem Post reported the Patagonia fires as being started by Israelis. Yeah, look, dude, they found the grenade. I think it was an incendiary, maybe it was a smoke grenade, which has incendiary elements. They found it, and it's Israeli made. They confronted the Israeli tourists. Israel, they have state-sponsored tourism in Argentina, which is one of the few places that they fully pay for the travel for, the Israeli military members that are on vacation. They fully pay for their vacation in Argentina. it's weird. And Israeli groups have more topography data. They've been collecting more topography data in the region than like either Argentina or Chile. It's so very suspect. Yeah, so that's an ongoing story, and they found much of their like firefighting equipment was sabotaged. Scary stuff, man. Scary stuff. And we know what kind of person Malay is. And I don't know if this is true. Granted, I didn't do the research into this, so take this. I don't even want to say it yet until I confirm it. I'm not going to mention it. But just some stuff on Malay's background. And but you know, he is Jewish. The first thing he did was kiss the Wailing Wall. So we know where his allegiance lies. But there's some other theories that I haven't had the opportunity to look into that I don't want to speak on just yet. Just say allegedly. Nah, that's irresponsible. I don't want to speak on something on this until I know more. So, or Charlie told you in a dream, bro, dude. We need to put Candace Owens in a fucking box and lock that box up forever. Like, for real? For real. All of this shit is going on. All of this shit's going on. Where I lost the post, I think. Yeah, no, here we go. This just sums it up, doesn't it? I started off the stream with this because we had to get our Candace bashing in, and we had to shit on India a little bit. But like, is this not so true? This was a screenshot of her show today. So here's Asuka Groiper, my mutual, saying, what's happening right now? Venezuela post-Maduro arrest. Trump wanting to send the military into Mexico. Riots in the USA against ICE. Iranian societal collapse and potential war with Israel and the USA. Trump wanting to annex Greenland. And here's Candace. Today on the show, shocking discovery over the weekend which directly ties the Moonies cult to TPUSA faith. Turns out the internet was right all along. It's now time to tell you more about the dream I had about Charlie's betrayal and who I saw. Does this not just sound like fucking bullshit? Let me make up some more shit. Let me recall more details about the dream I mentioned months ago. And specifically who I saw. Like, dude. Dude, if you, like, still are watching Candace, you need to be institutionalized. You need to be institutionalized for your own sake. Holy shit. Holy shit. You know what? Maybe the liberals are right. Maybe we need to censor the internet. And maybe, you know what? You know what? Biden, you know what? Maybe we were too harsh on you. You know what? Mark Zuckerberg, maybe you had a point. Maybe you had a point censoring retards like this on the internet. Which is scary, isn't that? Makes you wonder what kind of op Candace is, because she is just making the case for why censorship could be beneficial. Like, seriously, think about that for a second. Olay. Really makes you wonder what kind of op Candace is. She's like doing all of the heavy lifting for like these like anti-free speech people, funny people. Like, what better evidence can you find other than Candace Owens turning, like, you know, hundreds of thousands of, like, Americans into, like, schizophrenic nut jobs? Talking about, like, Moonies? What? I thought it was the B cult. It's another cult? I can't even... What the fuck are we talking about? You coined a new phrase today? What's that? Anyway, like, please, Brigitte Macron, if you can hear us, please sue this bitch into bankruptcy. Brigitte Macron, if you can hear us, please save us. Should we? Okay. Should we for fun? You know, Nick should go live soon, actually.
Terrorism and are subject to the revocation of
What is it? Is this a
frozen
new?
bank accounts, asset seizures, and the denial of basic constitutional rights. In effect, the Canary mission serves as a means to circumvent constitutional protections,
Is this a new
allowing the federal government to engage in intelligence gathering activities that would otherwise be considered
lobby
unlawful.
video?
But the Canary mission is not alone. Palantir, another company closely aligned with the State of Israel, uses AI-driven analytics to maintain private databases on U.S. citizens and currently works with 4 federal agencies.
True.
While government contracting with the private
It's
sector
old.
is longstanding, the prominent influence of Jewish groups within these increasingly powerful organizations warrants careful examination.
I don't typically spend much time in the lobby, that's why.
I renew the call for all
I wait for the
able-bodied
tweet, you
young
know? But anyway. I don't know, did we check this out real quick? I'll just be rage baiting myself if we watch this, if we just see what Candace is up to. I'm just curiosity.
All right, you guys, let's get started. Happy Monday. You are not going to believe it. You're not going to believe it. You probably will believe it at this point because all of it's so unbelievable that we now believe it. But last week, we obviously brought you a pretty...
Instead of mainstream media, let's start calling it what it actually is, Mossad media. Gen Xers love their phrases. It's just like, let's not call the Democrats Democrats, let's call them by their real names, the demon craps. You know, it's like, it's that same energy. Yeah, I mean, sure, you could call it facade media. That might be effective among a certain crowd. Mossad media is really interesting. You honestly don't spend time there because of this amazing pre-show. I accept the glaze, thank you. I accept the glaze. I humbly accept the glaze. Don't forget to like the stream and leave a comment. What do you think about all of this? What do you think about what's going on in Argentina or Iran? Where are the normies? Have the Goy gone insane? Have the Goy lost their minds? We really, bro, it's just crazy. We have a new Black Queen. We have a new Black Queen. New Black Queen, her name is Ray. Ray Valentina.
She died because she wanted to protect niggers who would not piss on her if she was on fire.
So based. Anyway. Yes, true. Silence. Silence, a Black Queen is speaking. So true. But it seems like there's a new contender.
She didn't try to run him over. You're a nigger lover. Thank you. My message to white liberals is that these people want you dead regardless. It doesn't matter. Give them everything they want.
So true. So true, Queen. And we already reacted to that. Hashtag Mossad Media.
The explosive episode wherein we discussed Liberty University. Because when did Charlie's organization make a sudden switch? Suddenly everybody's discussing faith as opposed to his initial goals focused on the free market.
Bro, who fucking cares, man? Who cares? Okay, look, man. We're about to fucking go to war with Iran, okay? The American Empire is about to expand into Greenland. That's pretty cool. You know, liberals are galvanized because the woman got shot in the face, and she deserved it, by the way. I disagree with Richard Spencer on that. And all like, Candace, do you talk about anything else now? Like, literally, you talk about anything else. Kirk. Ben Shapiro. Tyler Robinson. This is in response to everyone calling her out for being retarded. Look at how many fucking views she's getting. Bro, dude, you know what, man? Mossad, just fucking go ahead. Mossad, you know what? Maybe Amalek does need to be destroyed. You know what? I'm gonna choose to cope and say all of these people are hate watching. I'm gonna just choose to cope and say all of these people are hate watchers. That is my cope, okay? No, I will accept no information that contradicts my cope. No, I will ignore everything else that says that all these people are real. because that reality is too painful for me to bear. Netanyahu, if you're gonna hear us, please save us. Holy shit, man. You're gonna let me use that one for free? I got you, Hawker. I got you. I appreciate that. What if the Iranian government escalates its response and severely suppresses former protesters, possibly thousands? How might the US or the West react? It seems like they already have escalated. They have an internet blackout. There are reports. Take this with a grain of salt. Again, it's all hard to fully disseminate all the information that is the limited information coming out, but that they're using live ammunition. There are skirmishes with hostile militia groups going on, supposedly. Look, America's looking for any kind of pretense for intervention. America would like it if they didn't have to because of optics and resources. But if they deem that a necessity, then we'll 100% use this like freedom fighter narrative to bomb Iran. We've already done it. Nick tweet going live. Boom. Okay, we'll hang out here then until the pre-show goes. It's usually another like 15 minutes or so after the tweet. Yeah, huge show, man. This is going to be a big one, I think. A lot to talk about, a lot to get into. Oh, I guess we're going to talk about Venezuela. Tonight will probably be Venezuela, maybe tomorrow Iran, or maybe tomorrow the ICE shooting, then maybe the day after Iran, because Iran is still developing. It's very dynamic. So any kind of analysis of what's going on in Iran could be very different by the end of the week. But yeah. Yeah, your free Mexican show is starting. True. Yeah, a lot to talk about. Let me catch up here though. Queens with straight Chinese hair. True. Brad Macron is a man. He won't be suing anybody. You know what? It'd be kind of funny if he is a man and sues the shit out of Candace and wins anyway. I would cheer that on. Who fucking cares? Have some China eyes. Interesting. Has her lapdog abandoned her yet? Ian Carroll. I don't know what's going on with that guy. That guy's cooked. That guy's a fucking weirdo. Never liked him. You think 1.5 trillion is big enough military budget though? Let's bump that up to 2. Why the hell not? Mellow M means million. Million the goat 1000. I don't know. Back to delivering pizzas. Yeah, true. Yeah, Ian Carroll back to being a pizza delivery guy. Which was that what he was doing right before he started doing his show? Is that what that's about? If that was like 10 years ago, who cares? But like, if that's what he was doing right before, I don't know, man. It's... Look, I don't want to knock people for their profession or whatever, but he's just cringe and wrong. Lil Marco is going to be king of Cuba. Trump is fighting with England about Venezuelan gold. Yeah, what's England going to do about it? Got to fight with Ted Cruz for that one. If Vladimir Putin was an alcoholic, everybody would have already been nuked by now. I don't know. I don't really know what to make of that. It's gonna be a huge show, man. But yeah. Hey, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell notification. Stay up to date. Follow all my socials in the description. Yeah. All right, that's my shilling. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely not looking good for Russia in general right now. It's kind of embarrassing. Like, they are just getting straight up bullied. You know, we're entering year 4 in Ukraine. They're getting their shadow merchant vessels oil vessels just getting yoinked. Not even just oil, but whatever goods that they're carrying in their shadow fleet to circumvent US sanctions. Where we're just taking it. We're just straight up yoinking it. And, you know, they lost their foothold in Syria. They're about to lose their ally in Iran. They lost their foothold in Venezuela. It's pretty embarrassing, and still they haven't cleaned up Ukraine, so pretty embarrassing. But I support America buying Greenland. That's a good development. We want the resources, but importantly, we want access to the Arctic. Like that would be a very valuable port. And notice how a lot of countries, well, the countries that matter, are all vying for the shipping lanes in the Arctic because the ice is regressing. It's receding rather. And so everybody, even fucking Israel's trying to stake a claim on the Arctic Circle because that'll open up all kinds of new trade routes. And so that's actually a point of contention between Russia and China because China wants to get in on that, and it's like you don't even border the Arctic Ocean. How does that make any sense? So anyway. Your rocket is out for the show? That's crazy. People say it's complicated, but it's really not. Mello is running the streams. Mello needs to shut the fuck up. And Hippocratic Oath needs to be in prison for the most part. That's pretty kick. I'm excited. Currently super chatting Nick, asking for book recommendations and workout advice. That's a good idea. I'm curious. I'm curious what he has to say. I'm sure he has a lot to talk about. I'm sure he'll be very excited to give you some recommendations. Will Putin save Cuba? No, he won't. He can't. He doesn't have the capability to do it. They can't even take over fucking Ukraine. Like, they're gonna worry about Cuba on the other side of the planet. It's like, worry about your own backyard, though, bro. Yeah. I mean, look, they will, if given enough time, win in Ukraine, but look at what it's costing them. Like, that's just kind of embarrassing when you think about it. They had the opportunity, and only through one very specific lens could you say that it makes sense not to do a decapitation strike in the first 2 weeks of the war, but I think that's mostly cope. Like, some people are saying it's actually better that he didn't take Kiev immediately and didn't, like, go after all of the Ukrainian leadership. That somehow that's a good thing because he's like bleeding the West of resources, but I think it's bled his country of resources far more than the West. Like, all the stuff that we put into Ukraine is expendable. It's a lot harder to replace manpower, of which he's lost a lot of. And like the way not to sound glib, but like as far as our government is concerned, like who gives a shit if a bunch of Ukrainians die in Ukraine? That's not our, like, they're just a proxy. They're expendable. Ukraine, and this is just how politics works. Ukraine is totally expendable as far as our government's concerned. All as a means of constraining Russia, and it's worked. To their credit, it's totally worked. Russia has lost, I think. Like, you could say, yeah, they're winning that battle, they're winning in Ukraine, but they always should have been winning Ukraine. It would have been really bizarre if they lost Ukraine, or were losing Ukraine, I should say. But they're losing everywhere else in the world. So it's like, who's really winning? So as far as our government's concerned, it's a victory. A victory for America, a victory for NATO. So yeah, I don't think Putin's gonna save Cuba. I think Cuba is hooked. Denmark is going to throw Legos at us. Yeah, they're gonna put Legos on the beach. Nah, they'll sell Denmark before they do anything. They don't want the smoke. They know what's best for them. They don't want the smoke. What happens if, like, what is Denmark realistically going to do against us? They know the situation they're in. They know their military pales in comparison to ours. They're dependent on us for defense. They are paranoid about Russia. So what are they going to do about it? I think they'd be happy to sell Denmark, considering the alternative. At least then maybe they get something out of it. What is the future for America and Europe? That's a big question. I think Europe really hates America at this point, at this moment. Yeah, I mean, they're not really in any position to do anything about it. They're dependent on America for their defense. And as much as they might hate America, they hate Russia more. And that's something that I think Americans forget, but there's a lot of like generational animosity between Europeans and the Russians, the Slavs. And it's not hard to figure out why, you know. The new G5 doesn't include one European country. Of course, the EU hates the US. Yeah, I mean, look, they don't really want to be bossed around by America, but like, what choice do they have? Ideally, Europe would be our greatest ally. Ideally, Europe and America, like, we would just, in some way, and this is all very, you know, kind of unspecific, but we would kind of just buy Europe. We would create a more powerful empire than ever before. But, like, I don't see, like, the Europeans getting out of the problem that they find themselves in. With their demographic replacement. They're more cooked. All right, it's Credo coming in. Let me finish these up real quick. The Russian army is primitive, like Trump said. Those Slavs need to be need to put the vodka down and lock in for real. True. They are. Can you ask a personal question? I guess it depends on the question. Russia is using horses for mobile infantry. Mel likes personal questions. Oh, man. Our Zionist government doesn't care about the Ukrainian people at all. They hate them just as much as they hate the Russians. They're just expendable. They're just like... Ultimately, the common denominator is that these people are far away. They're not us. Who cares? They're a means to an end. So, anyway. That's Credo. I'll see you guys in chat. I'll see you guys watching the show. Big show. Love you guys. 07. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell notification, stay up to date, follow all my socials in the description. And yeah, we're back. God bless. I'll see you guys all later. Well, what's with the rainbow emoji? What's going on? Okay. What's going on there? All right. I'll catch you guys all later.